Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Perpetual Chess. Listeners, we're joined this week by a rising star Twitch streamer who I will tell you more about in a minute. But first, I wanted to thank our sponsors, Chessable.com. They've got a new course out by I am Alex Sistani. I'm a big fan of Alex's work. He's a very clear speaker and great teacher. And this course is called the Positional Chess Patterns Manual. So I think it's well worth checking out. And by the time you hear this, my course may be out. So if you're rated in the 1,000 to 1,600 range, or if you're a trainer, check out my new course, Identifying Critical Moments in Chess. I've worked really hard on it, and I think it will be helpful, particularly for that audience. As for our guest this week, she is a up-and-coming YouTube streamer, chess presenter, commentator, and Twitch presenter. She's got like 13,000 Twitch followers. She's fresh off of this tournament called the BotezChessCamp, which we'll be discussing within the interview. She was playing with the Botez sisters, with two-time U.S. champion Jennifer Yu, Anna Cramling, and these other chess stars. And she's had a rapid rise. She drew Jennifer Yu in this tournament, which is absolutely amazing. She's gone from 1,000 to 1,800 within 2 years, while finishing and graduating from a rigorous university and building an audience as a content creator. So we touch on all those topics within the interview: chess improvement, building an audience, finding a community, etc. And it's a really fun and wide-ranging interview that I would like to get you to. So without further ado, here's my chat with Jules Gambit.
Hi, I'm happy to be here. Nice to meet you, Ben. I listened to your pod a bit before all of this, maybe a year ago-ish, and then I listened to a little bit last night, so I'm really happy to be here.
Oh, thanks. I'm trying to get that younger demographic, Jules. So I appreciate you tuning in. I know long form content is dying. So, but
I love podcasts. They're great.
Glad to hear it. So you're coming off of this amazing experience at BotezChessCamp, which obviously a uniquely presented tournament. So basically, you described it as chess prom. Friend of the pod, Nate Solon, described it as like the hot chess tournament. I don't know, but my question as we set the stage and get into that experience is like, how was it pitched to you, Jules? Like when they reached out to you, what did they say it was going to be?
Well, actually, I learned about it in Charlotte. I was doing some social media for Charlotte, and I was hanging out with Alexandra and Dina Belenkaya, Alexandra Botez and Dina Belenkaya after the tournament. And we were getting food and we were in the hotel after, and she was just like, hey, I was like thinking of getting a bunch of chess streamers together and just doing a small tournament. Like, I don't even know if she asked me if I wanted to do it. I think maybe that was just assumed. But she was perfectly correct. I was like, yeah, that sounds so much fun. I hope you do that. And she was like, yeah, great. And then just messaged me on Discord a few weeks later. So she just kind of pitched the idea casually while we were all in just after the game, kind of relaxing.
Yeah, and it was, I mean, I didn't obviously you guys are all content creators for the most, well, not all of you, but a lot of you are content creators and creating your own content in your own verticals in addition to playing serious chess games. So I didn't catch everything that's been covered about this, but my impression is this sort of like you guys are in like a mansion. So there's like a sort of like bachelor or bachelorette vibe. You're often wearing evening gowns, but then of course you're all strong players and the chess is very serious. So as the idea took greater hold, how much did you know about what was going to be going on at the house once you showed up?
I think we all knew that there would be some form of production, but the day to day, we were still working on it. As we got there, they had a schedule for us, but it was kind of difficult to know what to expect because this is actually a one of a kind event. I love a chess bachelorette. We actually made that joke because we had a promo team there, these amazing videographers who work with a bunch of other YouTubers, and they were taking all the girls out to do promo shots of us walking and stuff, just to use
Right.
in the video, the YouTube. And we were laughing because it's we even had a drone shot where we're all waving, and we're like, this is exactly like the Bachelorette. This looks this has to be filmed exactly like the Bachelorette right now. But that I think was more by accident. They didn't really give us a dress code. They just said whatever you're cute and comfortable with. And I think all of us just kind of enjoyed wearing the dresses. We don't get to do it very much, especially at chess tournaments, but there was a production team there a lot. There was a production team there from, I don't know, around 9 a.m. to sometimes even as late as like midnight every day.
Okay, yeah. And then so on these themes, on the Bachelorette theme, like on your YouTube channel, one of your more popular recent videos was taken there. I went on a date with Andrea Botez.
Oh,
It was pretty
yes.
funny.
Love it.
Yeah. So stuff like that, was that just sort of spur of the moment?
Yeah, the Botezes were great. They basically said we have this production crew on set. These guys who are very experienced with YouTube. Whenever you're not playing a game or aren't needed, feel free to take them and just like give them an idea, and they'll help you shoot it, which is great, especially for me and any of the other girls who are more, getting into content because we don't have our production teams, our big equipment yet. So um, we definitely took that. Actually, that video, I was supposed to be shooting it earlier, and we there was just too much to do. We ran out of time. So Andrea took it upon herself to really like come to me. She's like, I really want to shoot this video with you. Like, I want to help you out with this. And she did it pretty late at night. So when everyone
Okay.
else was relaxing, she was working with me. So I really do appreciate that. I think the amount of support they showed, especially smaller creators, was just enormous there. And the majority of the public didn't even get to see all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And you say it was late at night. I don't know like what was going on in terms of drinking. I mean, you guys didn't seem drunk in the video, but I'm sure you had some fun along the way. But so
Of
when you're
course.
recording, like is it a lot of takes? Or is it like pre-planned at all, or you're just like improv the whole thing?
That was one take, 20 minutes of improv, and we used
Wow,
about 10
amazing.
minutes of it. So it was just like one of those moments where I had to edit out Dina. Dina was helping us film, and she was just like cracking up during certain portions of it. So we had to edit that out. But other than that, it was pretty much what you see is what you get. I edit my own videos, so I'm not the best editor at all. So it was pretty much just one take. There you go.
Amazing. Yeah, and
Yeah.
Dina's pretty funny in her own right. So like just to
Oh,
make
yeah.
her laugh is high praise. And we should say so the participants in the Botez chess camp, of course, the Botez sisters, also Anna Cramling, Linda Diaz, who is an I believe she's an NM. She's definitely a player from New York,
Strong player.
strong
Yeah.
player. Yeah,
Great musician.
Nemo. Yeah, yeah, great singer. Nemo, Jennifer Yu, and yourself. I believe that's everyone.
Yes.
And then the games were classical chess games, right?
Yes, they were. And they were the right time control. I'm all for the longest time controls possible, and that's what the games were.
And was it hard to focus? Like, because I mean, it seems like you're all friends, you're hanging out, you're in this beautiful house. It's not exactly like the dingy hotel ballrooms we're used to. So like when you actually had to sit down and play chess, was it hard to focus and take it as seriously as you would any other game?
I actually think maybe the problem was that we were almost taking it too seriously. Like sometimes our ability to create content was hindered a little bit by like the fact that this is a FIDE rated tournament and we're like very serious and we want to prep before the rounds. Like I remember the guys who were filming for YouTube were like, where are all the girls? And we're all in our like rooms hitting spacebar, like with
Right.
our prep. And so we were taking it very, very seriously. I do know some of the girls had a little fun with the games, like Alexandra and Andrea's game, and also Andrea had a costume change during my game as well, which I actually didn't notice. There's a very funny clip from her YouTube where she explains that she like tried to psych me out. She like comes out in a new shirt matching Dina, and I in the clip I don't even look up, and I didn't even notice she changed for the whole entire game. So yeah.
And and there were serious prizes too, right?
Oh yeah, there was. I think it was like 10K for first, maybe
Yeah.
7K, 5K for second, something like that.
Yeah, won by Jennifer Yu, no surprise
Of
there. But
course.
I mean, that game, like first of all, you had her on the ropes, so like you drew her, which is one thing. But as you mentioned on X, like it was a chaotic game, time trouble involved, and you could have won. Like you were rated below 1,000, a college student 2 years ago. Like how does that feel to be able to put a performance like that up?
It feels really good. Especially I had a hard game against Alexandra the game before, where I had kind of a not great end game, and I came back from a not great end game to a draw. I had to like fight my way towards it, and then I got to the theoretical part, and I don't know what happened. I was under time pressure, my brain blanked, and I lost like in a move, basically. Um, and I'd been studying so much, and I was like, okay, my work it doesn't feel like it's paying off, like at least not results wise. And then I have this game with Jen, and it just felt very nice to be like, okay, Even at my best 2 months ago, I could not have played a game like that and put up a performance like that. So overall, even though the result wasn't during the game, I really was going for the win. I'm very happy with the draw because I do feel like it showed my progress, and that was the thing I was most concerned about.
Yeah, for sure. And you were the lowest rated in the field, right?
Yes, it was like one of these is not like the other.
That's intimidating. Yeah, yeah, and it's obviously a big audience. Like, how often does
Yes.
how often does stuff like that creep into your head when you're playing? Are you able to sort of filter it out, or do?
Yeah, the majority or most of my tournaments, at least nowadays, are on stream. This was definitely a huge audience, and I was having for my game with Andrea, Danny Wrench was commentating my game, and then
Right.
with my game with Jen, I think it was Hammer, and then Grandmaster Benjamin Bach and Anna Maya, and like all a
Mm,
bunch of
yeah.
viewers is just a very big group of very highly knowledgeable people, which of course I think it's actually more cool than nerve-wracking at this point. You know, if I was having a very, very bad tournament, then it definitely would have added to it having that because, there is something to be said that people don't really see where we all go on Reddit, or at least I do, and I know some other people do after the games, even if you know you're not going to, and
Right.
you say
Cover
you're
one
not going
eye
to,
and look. Yeah.
or you look at the YouTube comments and you just see all these things and you're like, okay, like, and I think it's hard for anyone to lose, but when your worst losses are going to get posted on Reddit with like 100 comments, I think the funniest one for Jen was I think people on Reddit thought that I didn't actually know what a three-fold repetition was. So I thought I
Right.
just didn't know the rules of chess.
Right.
But I know that like there can be extra pressure from that end of it.
Yeah. And so you mentioned you guys did a lot of opening prep, would disappear before the rounds. She played the modern against you. I'm guessing that wasn't on your radar.
No, it really wasn't. She usually, I think, played, if I'm remembering correctly, E4, E5. I was trying to get into some sort of Roy. But I do know that she has played the modern in the past. So I like briefly went over a line, but the line I went over was like she plays H6 and she ended up playing H5. So she ended up playing something completely different than I looked at anyway. But ultimately, I think it worked in my favor, that opening.
Yeah, yeah, you had a great position. Yeah, and you played it well, and then yeah, chaos broke out as often
As it
happens.
does.
Yeah. So do you have any other tournaments on your schedule, Jules?
Yes, I have to sign up, but I'm looking into doing Sans Open in like late August because I'll be in Barcelona anyway.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, good luck again. I mean, we'll definitely get it more briefly. Shortly, we'll get into more about like what's fueled this rise, but a bit more on the Botez Chess Camp. So from what I saw, it seemed like the comments were predominantly positive, but there were like a few negative comments along the way about
Sure.
how
Yeah.
chess was being presented, etc. I'm sure if you were reading the YouTube comments, they ran the gamut. It's always a dangerous activity to read the YouTube comments. So,
Mhm.
how did you feel like weighing the positive and the negative? How did you feel that this event was received?
Well, when it comes to perception, I think on the positive side of it, we got a lot of comments that this was, the first tournament that someone's daughter or sister was really interested in following. And I see that too. I really do like following women's tournaments myself. I'm not sure if there's a particular reason, but it's just always nice to see women play. So I think that was something that was very motivating. We did have a bit of a Twitter scuffle during the camp, and I do understand that chess. I think there are two types of people in chess, and there are people who very much look at chess from a traditional standpoint of how it's been done traditionally, and then people who are a little bit more look at it from like the modern standpoint. So of course, how you view chess will also affect how you view this tournament. Um, Ultimately, what I think people didn't understand as much is since it was so glamorous looking, like I think there was a lot of assumptions that the girls were flown out and all these like elaborate prizes and like just this like beautiful glamorous event and everyone's just looking great. But it was just kind of like any other tournament. Like every single girl there paid their own money to be there. Like we all flew out ourselves. We were paying pretty much the same as any other tournament. We didn't pay an entry fee, of course, but like other than that, we were all flying out. Some girls like Anna was flying out from Sweden. Like I'm sure that had
Yeah.
got to be expensive. So it was basically just like a tournament in that standpoint, and all of us were friends. There was a lot of talk about how participants were picked, and it honestly was just like a mixture of who was closest. Like there was other people. I know Alexandra Prado, Hannah Sace, I think at some point was invited, but too far away. It's hard for them to get here, especially when everyone's funding their own way over here.
Right.
So it was just a mixture of who's in the right rating range, which I think was around 1800 to 2400. I know men were actually invited at the beginning, but the ones invited, I think, had other scheduled conflicts. So it wasn't
then it
meant to be
really
a
would have
women's
been like The
tournament,
Bachelor.
apparently. But the invite list was mainly just based on like who they knew personally, who they could invite, and who was closest in the right rating range.
Yeah. I mean, it looked like you guys were having fun. Like,
We were.
I mean, yeah. I didn't see any problem with it, even if I'm probably not like the number one target demographic of the event. And I mean, you guys had a great time and you're serious chess players, and the games were like you said, the games were the main attraction, the main thing that brought you there. So Jules, I know you've done one of your bigger YouTube videos is about how you've made progress in chess, which again has been absolutely incredible.
Thank you.
So how did you, and I know you've said in previous interviews, like you got into chess or rediscovered chess, we should say, partially via the Coffee House Chess channel. Maybe we should start before we talk about how you get good. If you could just retell that story.
Yeah, I basically hadn't looked at a chessboard in 10 years. So at that point, my peak when I was a little kid and I quit was around 1,000. And then maybe I would see a chessboard at someone's house every now and then and play a game, but usually I just hadn't looked at chess for a really long time. And then I discovered coffee chess. I was just needed to get out of you told me that you went to my college, so you understand, or a sister school at my college.
Yeah.
It's a very small campus. It's
Very small,
like a
yeah.
beautiful campus, but it's very small. And I was like during a difficult test exam week, everyone was stressed. I just wanted to get out. And I was driving, I saw people playing chess. I was like, that's cool. So I go just to watch. I have no idea what this is. And then the guy who runs Coffee Chess, really, really just nice guy, asked me if I want to play a game. I was like, oh, I haven't played in so long. So I play a bunch of games, and bless his heart, he picks the only good one. He picks like the best one of like my like 40 games I played that day, and posted. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. I checked out the channel. I hadn't heard of it really before that. And then I just went back every now and then. It's a long drive from my college, so I only really would go back like once a month. But yeah.
And then when did you decide you wanted to put serious effort into getting better as you continue to fall back into the rabbit hole?
Yeah, I didn't start streaming until late July, early August of 2022. And I've said in previous interviews, that is thanks to a wonderful person who works at chess.com, Joe Lee. He's gotten countless streamers into it. Just really great guy. But I didn't even really take it seriously then either. I was just kind of doing something over the summer for fun. I did a tournament maybe August, September, something like that. And I probably started studying some point then, but I wouldn't say it got serious until maybe December of that year.
And then, like, how did you know what to do in terms of improving?
No, that's the whole thing. That's why I say it didn't get serious. And I'm even hesitant to call it serious after that, because no matter how much time I was investing, I just was not studying the right things. Like I was streaming, so I was playing a lot of Blitz, and I was just tilting the same 300 rating points and saying I quit chess every like 5 minutes, and going back and forth. And when I was studying, a lot of it was just I did browse over a lot of like grandmaster games, which even though I wasn't really analyzing it deeply or in the right way, I think was still helpful because no matter what, I think when you're at that level, just being exposed to chess in any sort of way helps your improvement.
But then you kind of rooted that out. You decided
Yeah.
that's not the most, yeah, which I think
Yeah.
you're probably right. Yeah. So a lot of tactics you mentioned in one of your most popular YouTube videos, which is called something along the lines of how I went from 900 to 1750. And I will link to all the stuff we're referencing. So a lot of tactics, but you're also a big advocate of OTB play. What do you think? Like, did you just learn that from doing it, or did someone tell you, or did you already know from having played competitively as a kid that that was going to be important?
Oh, I hated competitive chess play as a kid. Like I was not expecting to like it coming back into it. But I love classical chess. Like it is by far my favorite time control. I get the most out of it. I just kind of fell in love with it when I came back to it and decided that that was generally where I wanted to spend most of my time. So it wasn't even an improvement thing. It was just that like I'm just one of those people who happen to really like classical. But I think since I filmed that video, it was actually 1750 online. So I've gotten a lot better. I've learned a lot, especially study wise, since I filmed that video.
And do you feel like anything has changed in terms of like how you need to approach improvement as you go from like you got to 1750 online, but you probably gained a couple hundred points in real strength since then? Did you have to adjust or was it just like stay on the grind sort of thing?
Oh, yeah, I completely changed how I studied. I think, really like everything I mentioned in that video is so useful for getting up from a certain rating range. But once you're around 1500 FIDE strength, maybe like 16, 1700 USCF strength, like it really felt like what I had to do need to change. I actually hit I don't want to say a plateau because it wasn't long, but I hit a point where I was putting in a lot of hours of studying and just not getting back what I was putting into it. And I needed to make some major adjustments because of that.
So again, I'll link to your first video, but for listeners who didn't see it, maybe we should encapsulate first what you did to get to 1500-ish, well, 1700 online, whatever you want to call it, but that general area, and then go more concrete on what you did. So you did,
Mhm.
so once you kind of moved away from studying Grandmaster games, I know you mentioned some, tactical patterns, the chess.com puzzle trainer, you mentioned chess tempo. Like what else did you do to get to 1700 online?
Yeah, for online rating, I think tactics, like tactics are the number one most important thing, just having that puzzle recognition. I'm especially a kind of naturally slow player. I know a lot of people will probably relate to that. So tactics helped me speed it up a little bit. Analyzing my blitz games, managing tilt was a huge one for me. I was a huge tilter, and not only is that demotivating when it comes to studying, but also it's not the best thing if you're actually trying to gain rating online.
Yeah.
So I would come up with a way that no matter how much I gained, if I gained 30 points or lost 30 points, I just stop where it was. And that's something that I've kind of stuck to and that has helped me, or I've tried to stick to. I think if you look at my chart, I'm
Right. No one's
very all
perfect.
over the place. But those things all helped me a lot. Playing over the board, I think, was just helped develop some sort of intuition because no matter how many tactics you have, it really does get you far online. But having that kind of positional intuition is also important to get yourself out of sticky situations or not get yourself into them in the first place. And a little bit of openings helped, but just so much that I could face things without being immediately lost.
Gotcha. And when you play online, are you doing the game reviews after? What's your approach to analysis of online games?
Yeah, I nowadays I really am sparing with my online play. I use the online resources a lot, especially like chess.com to watch other games, watch events, analyze, but when it comes to online play, I do it very purposefully, where I will just always analyze without engine than with engine. But I have found that for me, especially I think since I'm so new to chess, that my study usually playing games and analyzing them is helpful, but that just can't encompass all my study.
And are you working with a coach, Jules?
I have at different points. I've worked a little bit when I was in Spain with Grandmaster Thomas Souza. He's amazing for a few months there. International Master Andre Makave. I was working with, when I first started chess, I was working with Zachary Hussein, who's the chess nerd online, who was great, just giving me some of those essentials. But all of those are very like sparing in between. I think like a lot of people, coaches are very expensive for me.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit priced out of it. So I really just try to use coaches in either periods where I feel like I'm extremely stagnated and I'm not sure why, just to try to figure that out, or if I have something to prepare for, like very intense.
Yeah. And obviously, so you finished university. You said December, right? I believe it was before we were recording, but
Yeah,
but just to
December.
confirm. And so now you're doing chess full time?
I am. Help some other chess content creators. I do work for chess.com. I'll do some commentary voiceover work for them as well. And then I do my own content. And it's a just really fun job to have out of college. Not the most
Yeah.
lucrative job to have out of college, especially it was really funny. You know my school. They're very heavy on economics. So
Yeah.
we had our graduation dinner. I'm sitting down with my dad and they're reading out the list and they're like, like blah 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 is going to Deloitte, like blah 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 is working at
Right.
Goldman Sachs, blah 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 is like going to this top law school, blah blah blah, and every single starting salary is like 200K, and then it's like, and Jules is doing chess. I just like look at my dad, he's just kind of like looking away a little. I was like, oh
That's
no,
funny.
this is not like I probably could have given them something better to say there, but not my family's finest moment.
That's funny. Well, I'm sure that they're very proud of you. I mean,
They
like I
are.
said, you've exploded in the chess world. I mean, these women that you're sharing the house with and you've become friends with, like some of the biggest stars in the chess world. And you've re-entered it in the past 2 years. So in someone going straight to a law firm or something, or Deloitte, I guess you can't go straight to a law firm from undergrad, but someone going straight to Deloitte, like they're okay for now, but you have a lot more freedom. And yeah, for
Yeah,
listeners, just to
there's amazing
clarify,
things.
yeah, so I'm obviously much older than Jules, but we went to something called the five colleges. We went to two different colleges within them. So I went to Pomona and she went to Claremont McKenna. And yeah, they're like, couple minute walk away. And I was telling her, and I'm sure the same is true for Jules, she took classes there. I took classes at CMC. So yeah, it's a funny coincidence.
Small
And
world.
that makes me wonder, Jules, like, so as you got into the content game, as a senior in college, I mean, like, what did your college peers and friends from high school think about it?
Oh, wow. Thank God I had a single room. I've seen old Alexandra Botez streams. By the way, she is a brilliant person. I don't think she gets enough credit for what she's done in the chess world, especially and how she's built her brand. I don't think people realize how difficult it was to build it from scratch, but I think she had a roommate because I'll watch like old VODs of her and I'll see her like turn around and like shake her head at someone not to come in when she's like doing her car commentary. And I'm just thinking in college, we had really thin walls and I would like say stuff loudly. I, like I would just like say things loudly out of context. And I'd be like, I wonder what my neighbors think of me. Like I know these walls are thin. I hear them. They hear me. Like I but
No.
generally, I
Mm.
ended up taking a semester off during COVID. So I was a semester behind. So there was one semester where I didn't really know a lot of people on campus because all my friends had graduated. And so it was a little easier then. But I definitely think in some ways doing content, it was like working 3 hours outside or more outside of class every day. So it did decrease my social life. Also, when you get so obsessed with something, all you want to do is share it, and it becomes very hard to not be surrounded by it all the time, which I think is actually a negative. But it definitely I definitely think my friends were all very supportive of it, but they definitely noticed I was being more isolated than before.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, in terms of like loud noises and the crowded conditions of like college dormitories,
Yes.
I'm sure your loud noises on chess streams were not the most offensive, um, not the most offensive thing to ever be overheard. But in addition, Jules, to okay, hours of streaming,
Mhm.
I read your thesis, as we'll get to, like, serious
Thank you.
academic work as well. But you're also spending hours a day studying. Like, how did you manage to fit all this in?
Uh, I mean, for me, I think you reach a certain point in kind of, I don't know if obsession is the right word, but just like passion for the game, where the work you do with chess kind of feels like downtime. So for me, it kind of replaced like TV, like just doing puzzles. And I'm not saying it was serious chess work, but just being exposed to it, whether it's like watching streams or watching Twitch. And like I said at the beginning, especially when I was in college, my studying was not very targeted. So I was spending a lot of hours, but not very targeted. But yeah, so it generally didn't feel like I was doing as much as I was. I definitely was burned out though by the end with the academics, especially when I had my thesis and I was trying to stream. Like people who saw my stream would know I was trying to do study with me streams because I just didn't have
Right.
time to put in the hours of anything else. And I think Twitch especially, I want to get back into Twitch more, but I've started to move to other platforms mainly because my experience my last semester with Twitch is that I would have a final exam and I had 2 weeks to write over 160 pages of different papers with research and everything. And I had to take 2 or 3 days off of Twitch, and then my viewership and my income would just drop by half, taking 3 days off.
That's crazy.
Um, and it would take a week to get back. And it made me nervous about long term prospects. And, it just felt very easy to get burned out because you always felt stressed about whether you should be streaming or not.
Man, yeah, obviously I've interviewed a lot of Twitch streamers over the years, and it never, like, that not being my native medium, it never ceases to amaze me that, like, it's
Yeah.
that fast, that there's just zero forgiveness for not streaming.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I think the people can take time and come back, but especially if you're relying on it on an income source, it becomes
yeah,
very difficult to do that.
yeah. So what other mediums are you looking? I know you've got a YouTube channel. Is that becoming more of an emphasis, or like anything else?
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to get into long form more, which is part of the reason that everyone was so supportive in the BotezCamp of my long form goals. Also, you guys didn't see it, but Andre and I were texting back and forth for like days editing and like going through edits and like,
That's
running things
amazing.
by
That's
each
really
other.
cool of
So
them. Yeah,
yeah, they like again stuff they don't have to do at all, and like just being
yeah.
generally very, very supportive with the little time that they have. But yeah, I want to get into long form a lot more. I really love comedic kind of content. That's what I do on Instagram. Instagram by far is my biggest platform right now, and I get pretty good viewership there. I also post on TikTok, but I don't focus on it as much. But I'm trying to move to just focusing mainly on Instagram and YouTube.
Okay. And for Instagram, are you looking for direct monetization, or is it more like build your audience and you would monetize on your other platforms?
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm starting the shift where I should start looking into monetization of it soon, but the followers and views you get, no matter how popular, how many views you get, it really doesn't translate to direct money a lot of
Yeah.
times on these platforms. So I'm just working on building my YouTube, building my Instagram, and just kind of using these to leverage off of each other. And right now, my Instagram has kind of been a resume for me of how I am able to come up with ideas and manage media. And I've had people reach out and to come up with ideas for them or manage their media or do certain things with them. So that's kind of how I've been monetizing it as of now.
That's pretty cool. And obviously, people like the Botezes, Dina Belankaya, Nemo, like they must be, since you're friends with them, they've got to be good sounding boards as well.
Yes, absolutely. And especially like I don't think all these girls are given credit as much as they should be. I remember my first talk with Alexandra Botez in the hotel after the game, her game. Like she is just so brilliant. Like
Yeah.
very, very, just an incredibly brilliant person, a very brilliant mind. I think since these girls are so upbeat and fun on stream and everything, that kind of gets lost in translation or you don't see it as much. But just talking to her, she has probably one of the best business minds I've ever seen. And I've been surrounded by people who run businesses, and it just doesn't cease to amaze me on that. But also just generally all the girls, like Anna Cramling is just so sweet, and she gave me some of the best business advice about signing contracts when I first met her. And
She said, just sign it,
Yeah,
don't read it, right?
exactly. No, she was like, be careful. And I was just running some contract stuff by her, and she was like giving me stuff she thought would help with it, which was very nice. And everyone means the best. Dina, especially, she's been like, I've worked with Dina, like she's been very helpful. She was the first person out of anyone that I connected with. And when I had zero influence whatsoever, I still don't have a lot, but like zero following, zero anything. I just started. She like took her time and took me under her wing, not even in a content way, like almost in an older sister way. And there was nothing in it for her. There was really nothing I could do for her. And she just generally did it because she's a good person and she wanted to be friends with me. And Dina is just such a strong personality. I think she also gets misunderstood sometimes on the internet because she is just a big softie at
Uh-huh.
heart.
Yeah,
And
but she's
yeah,
obviously very, very sharp obviously,
yeah, so
so
sharp.
I should say, like, to me, it's obvious, like the brands that the Botezes have built, that, like, just being like a young, attractive streamer, like there's so much more to it than that in order to sustain that level of popularity and continue to come up with new ideas. So like, even if you're not necessarily a consumer of their content, like I have absolute ton of respect, and Dina the same way. I mean, she's uh great chess player, but very funny, and like, they're all involved in different medias, and they're like willing to experiment, much more so than some other creators. So it's awesome that they're so willing to help.
Yeah, absolutely. And just they're all human. They all have their own stories and they're all generally like just I think I was very scared of the creator space, especially because I went to LA for college and I've just heard a lot of things. Probably most of them are unfair about just not but just creators in general. Like you get this kind of stereotype, right? And what I found with chess creators, especially Nemo, everybody, like none of it is really true. Like generally, they're just people who want to make friends and want to create content. Like this is my own personal experience. So I'm sure everyone differs with it, but I think the chess content space in general too is just very, very friendly and supportive.
That's great to hear. And of course, you did leave the chess world when were you 11 or 12 when you quit?
10, 11, something like that.
Okay. And what were your reasons for leaving then?
Yeah, my reasons were a combination of kind of two things. One being personally, like I know a lot of other people. I struggled to read things and social cues and social expressions growing up. And I kind of got an explanation for that later a little bit, but at the time, it was very difficult. Like I really struggled to make friends, and then I was playing chess, and um, when I was 5 to 12, that age range, boys aren't really friends with girls, so it was just kind of isolating because at a certain point, all the girls who were playing kind of dropped out. And I was already struggling to make friends at school. And then I felt like I was also involved in this activity where I had no chance of making friends. And I was gone on weekends. And
Right.
that was tough. I think generally now looking back at it, of course, making friends wouldn't be my first priority. There's so many amazing things about it. But that definitely, I think, was probably the biggest reason why I quit. Also, this is a little stupid, but at the time, you guys don't see it nowadays, but chess was considered weird. And people made fun of me for it at school a little bit. So not as big a deal, but that definitely contributed. And I think the second part of it was I had an amazing PE teacher who was our coach, and he was just so supportive and amazing. But he was, running a bunch of programs, and he was probably around 1700 USCF or something, so strong. But wasn't his coaching was not his full time thing, chess coaching. And at a certain point, I got to a level where I just really didn't know how to improve and how to get better. And, I won a couple of girls' championships for local categories, but I just never had coaching really. And so I just stopped getting better. And I think when you're a kid, if you don't know how to improve, you kind of need someone pushing you towards it, which isn't always the best thing. But, my parents were always like, follow your dreams, honey, which is
Right.
great. And I love it. But when it comes to getting better, I just didn't really have that guidance. So I'm sure that was a little demotivating too.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like your advice to young girl chess players Number one definitely involves finding a community. It sounds like that might have made a big difference for you.
Huge.
Is there any other advice you would give?
I think the community is a big part, and it's hard to find a community, especially it depends on what area you're in. A lot of different things, but I think the challenges I faced in some ways are easily, or not easily, but can be helped through online resources. Like I couldn't just go on Google and search how to get better at chess,
Right.
really back in the day. I mean, but I think just taking advantage of all these online resources, these communities that there are, like be careful with the communities that you are in, of course. But just, there's such a wide range of people in chess. And I think the best way to use chess, especially as a hobby, is just like making friends all over the place. Like you get to travel, you make friends all over the place, and then you see them and you still have your home base back home with your friends back home. But there are just so many more ways to foster a community now for young girls than there was back then.
Yeah, which is a great thing. So were there any girls' tournaments when you were playing, like as a kid?
Oh yeah, you might not know this, but you're looking at the NorCal Girls Champion for my age group.
Ah, congratulations.
1 or 2 years. I mean, look at that. Peaked. But yeah, there were girls' tournaments in Scholastic Chess. I never did any like money tournaments or anything. I mostly did Scholastic Chess, and they were like 30-minute time control, like, tournaments. Right. But yeah, there were girls' events.
Okay. Yeah. And did you ever travel to like nationals?
Oh, 1 year I did with my older sister, but I was pretty young then. I think probably 4th grade, 3rd grade, something like that. Okay.
I'm just curious because obviously now US Chess at Nationals has the girls' nationals and does stuff like the girls' team room. A lot of this, of course, was spearheaded by Jennifer Shahade, who I know you're a fan of her book, as we all are. So was that stuff happening when you went to nationals back then? I can't remember.
If it was, I didn't know about it.
Okay.
I would have loved that. I remember sneaking into, there used to be dance. I'm also a dancer, but I didn't do it as seriously at the time. And there used to be like dance competitions, and I would sneak into there and pretend to be a dancer so I could hang out with people.
That's funny.
I would like fake stretch,
Right.
So I would have loved that, to have just like a place to hang out with more girls at the time. So I'm glad they're doing that.
And Jules, it's interesting for me to hear you say, like, this sounds strange to say that chess was perceived as uncool, because to me, it's just like, it's a fact of life. It's been that way for decades. So do you really think that the tide has turned and that chess is no longer perceived as uncool?
Yeah, I think chess is kind of cool now. Maybe it's because I'm an adult. I don't know how it is in elementary school because I'm not exactly like in with the elementary school cool kids right now. But I think generally, like, people tend to think that chess is cool. I know that actually schools have had a problem with kids playing chess during school hours, which is just so funny to me. Like, of all the things they would be doing.
Right.
So I think it has changed, and that's probably for the better.
Amazing. And, you don't have to answer this. We can take this out if you want to, but you've at least made jokes on X about like interactions on dating apps and stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, to the extent that you have actual experience in this, or just like dating generally, like as a young woman who's gotten very good at chess and takes it very seriously, like how do young men typically perceive that?
Yeah, you can keep this in if you want. So I did take chess out of my bio for dating apps, mainly because I would get a bunch of like people who would just type like E4 or like make chess buns. And I was like, I don't want to deal with this. That's actually the most common one, like E4, D4. If they did D4, it's like block. But generally, like, I think people think it's cool. There is nothing more attractive personally, and I think for a lot of people, than someone who is extremely passionate about something. It doesn't have to be any particular thing, but just passion about something. And I think that extends to chess and a lot of other things.
Yeah, I agree. And you've encountered that. People, I mean, I guess that's going to, on a dating app in particular, it's going to be self-selecting because, I mean, okay, you get the, like you said, the opposite of a tryhard, whoever's sending you like one chess move rather than an actual message. But in terms of your interactions, it's the people who reach out are going to be interested. But like if you meet someone in a more casual environment, they are also generally interested.
Yeah, they think it's something cool and unique, and I'm not sure if I'm aware that right now, and I don't think this will always be the case, but right now I don't especially come off as a chess player with the general stereotype of what chess players are. So I think that generally accounts for a certain interest. Um, just whenever you see someone who just doesn't look like the stereotype of what you're taught does something, it's always, people want to know why. Um, but generally, I think it's just, everyone has a lot of passions. And I know in college, like I would experience a lot of people who, didn't look like they would be. Like I had these two roommates and they were like, bless their souls, kind of blockheads, it seemed like. And they were like partying all the time and like playing
Right.
video games all the time. And then one day I'm just like talking with that guy, like next door roommate. And he just like talks about like this like math competition he won in like high school and he like found this like formula or something and like just like this extreme math genius. I'm like, wow, like that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
This frat guy, basically. So I just generally think people right now are very interested in whenever someone has something unique about them.
Glad to hear it. And Jules, like what's next in terms of your chess? Do you have like rating goals or title goals or just take it one tournament at a time sort of thing?
Yeah, so I want to reach 2,000 FIDE. It's been a goal of mine for a really long time since I pretty much started. I would love to get a title. And so that is my main goal right now. And I've probably focused the majority of my energy into it. I love chess. I love studying chess, and I do it a lot. So I think it is achievable. I'm not sure in what time frame, but I'm hoping at some point in the nearest future.
Excellent. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't bet against you given what you've done. And flashing forward in terms of your chess study to today, as we
Yes.
talked about earlier, like what got you to 1700, but now you're trying to push to 2000 FIDE. So what's your study routine like now?
So I'll give you like a good day of a study routine I do here in St. Louis.
Always good to
Like
focus on the good days. Yeah.
a good day because I will say that because I can give you a study routine, but sometimes I have sleep problems, which is why I love podcasts. And on days when I don't sleep well, I won't even try really to get a lot of studying done because it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
Or on days when I have a lot of work, like it's kind of hard to. But the majority, so okay, for example, yesterday I woke up. I went to a cafe and did my work for like my job, my job work. And then around 12 noon or 1 p.m., because I work mornings and nights, so I was like weird little in between. I walked to St. Louis Chess Club. I love to study around other people personally. Something about the peer pressure of not pulling your phone out, even though I know it's in my head, helps me
Right.
because when I'm at home, like I can get distracted and I like a little bit of sound when I work. So I stayed at the chess club for around five, 5-ish hours and just studied two books. Um, yeah.
Which books?
Right now, the book I'm studying is Positional Decision Making in Chess by Boris Gelfand.
Awesome
Um,
book. Yeah.
Great book. It's positional chess is definitely the next thing I need to work on. And then I also have Grandmaster R.B. Ramesh's book on calculation, and those puzzles are freaking impossible. Great
Yeah, that's a
coach,
tough
very hard
book. Yeah.
possible. So I literally will take one out, beginner level, level one, and study and look at this like end game puzzle and just try to solve it, like without moving the pieces, and just try to make sure I'm really getting all of my opponent's tries on it, even if I get it right. And that takes a while. Like both of those take a while. I try to really in-depth study. And something I've done lately that has actually really, really helped my chess is I'll take stock after each tournament and I'll look at what I'm worst at in chess. And
Nice.
I can be pretty honest in it. And I will literally spend like 80 to 90% of my study for that month on that particular thing. Um, and yeah, that's what I'm doing now. That actually completely could transform my chess when I was going through a plateau. So I do recommend it.
So, what were you worst at?
For a really long time, I think I was worst at endgames, which is not something that is unusual, and that might be because um, I would spend a lot of time on studying, but since I hate endgames, you don't want to spend time studying things you
Right.
hate. So I would just kind of, do the bare minimum when it comes to that. And then I noticed I just had a very, very terrible tournament where I lost 100 FIDE rating points in a single tournament. That is possible, actually, and I did it.
Oh, we know it's possible. Don't worry, Jules. You're not alone.
I like had nightmares. I literally had a nightmare for a month of like looking at my FIDE rating profile, and it was like dropped. Like and I just refused to look at it. But I noticed my endgames were pretty bad, and I had a tournament where I was playing a very strong young 2000, and I had a great opening against her. I was up in exchange, but she had like strong center pass pawns, and she ended up winning, and it was just 100% due to my endgames. Like, not even like the calculation part of it, just my endgame intuition was just not there. She knew what to do and I didn't, basically, and there was no excuse for it. So I also knew that avoiding going into endgames is not a way you can play chess. It will forever put you at a disadvantage. And I knew I was actively against stronger players. I would rather put myself at a disadvantage right away than go into an endgame, and I wanted to stop that. So I spent the majority of my time, especially when I first got to St. Louis, studying endgame books. So I would just go to the club, and they had like a bunch of endgame puzzles and endgame books, and then endgame studies. Ramesh has endgame studies. I have a bunch of old, I think they're like Soviet endgame studies in some chess-based file somewhere from an old coach. And I would just like put it down and just like spend 4 hours a day just like grinding out endgame studies. And Kostya Kavutsky, who also is a close friend of mine, he had an endgame course that he gifted me for free, bless his soul, and I did that whole thing.
His course is great, yeah. Endgame Studies great. 101, yeah.
He's fantastic, and that helped me a lot too. But it was just like my studying was very imbalanced, which I think was a good thing. Like, I just spent the majority of my time on endgames, and I did puzzles to keep up, but then I did Chicago Open. So after that, a month of doing that, like 4 hours of endgames a day for like a month or two, I played in Chicago Open. And I don't know if I actively tried to steer my positions into endgames, but I think every single game I got was an endgame, which is kind of rare for me. And I did very well. And
that's
I just
awesome.
played the endgames very well. And so I do think it made a difference.
That must have been very gratifying. That's great. Yeah, and you mentioned Ramesh. One of my interviews with him, and I quoted this in my book, he espoused the idea that you're discussing. He said, weakness is an absence of strength. When you discover a weakness in your game, just work on it till it's not weak anymore. And obviously, that's been an impressive approach for you. One other follow-up, Jules, are you familiar with the book / Chessable course, Forcing Chess Moves?
Yes, I do have that. That was one that was recommended to me as well.
Ramesh is a legend, but his book's too hard. I think Forcing Chess Moves would be like perfect for your level. Just my unsolicited advice.
Yeah, I do easier puzzles interspersed. It's more when I do Ramesh puzzles, it's because I'm like trying to force my brain to focus and calculate, and I'm not really hard on myself. I let myself have time, and I know I'm going to miss things. But it's more just to get my brain into like, my brain skips over sometimes really difficult calculations in games, and I'll just like go for the easiest option, and it just gets my brain to be able to focus on it. But I definitely do the easier tactics, and then like blitz tactics, or like I have, like you said, Forcing Chess Moves. I'll do kind of like in between, or chess.com puzzles, like in between tactics where you have to think, but you're not having to spend 20 minutes staring at a position, hating your life.
Yeah,
but I actually did it in person studying with Ramesh. I got to do a Charlotte camp where I got to study with Judit Polgar, Ramesh, and Topalov for a week. So amazing. Very, very amazing experience.
What was the highlight?
Oh, I think just every single thing there was great. Just all these legends.
Yeah.
I loved Judit's class. Topalov was amazing. Ramesh, I loved his approach. I remember, so this really stuck with me. I was in his class. So it's me and a bunch of 12-year-olds, right? Because basically, for Charlotte, I did their social media for a tournament, and in return, they let me sit in on this camp for free. So it was kind of like this nice little trade-off. And the camp is usually for like gifted youngsters. So it was me and a bunch of 12-year-olds. And they all have their boards out and they're all calculating so quickly. And I'm just like trying to get through this. And then Ramesh calls on me. He's like, Jules, stand up. And he's like, we went over this line like 10 minutes ago of this huge like puzzle we've been solving for the entire lesson. He's like, okay, what happens if E3? Close your eyes, go. And I'm like,
oh my God, this is terrifying.
In front of all these children looking at me, I'm like trying to recite this long. I'm just sitting there and I mess up a few times, but I finally get through it. He does it to the kids too, and they're terrified as well. And just like, I think the best thing about that was like, I definitely had some ego attached, not to my chess, because, you know, I'm an adult improver, like, I'm learning. But, like, just generally wanting to do things well. And, you know, there is a concept of it being a little embarrassing when you have to get up in front of kids and you're doing things worse than them, or when you're, you know, studying puzzles worse than them. And I was, you know, working on one puzzle and they were already on 5. And at first it was really upsetting, but, you know, that kind of helped me get through it a little bit, where, you know, I think I have strengths that some children don't have, and I think they have a lot of strengths that I don't have, and that's just our individual journeys as chess players that you can't really compare. And the number one thing that will stop me, or I think most anyone, from getting better is ego and not being able to take a genuine look at what you need to work on.
Brilliantly said. Yeah. And that's something that we all have to grapple with, you know, like even Magnus has these kids breathing down his neck, you know, so it goes the whole way to the top. So there's no escaping it. It's like you say, just a matter of, it's the story that you're telling yourself, you know, you've got to make sure it's a positive one, but obviously you're doing a great job of that.
It's hard. It is difficult, especially since, I think for a lot of people who become a little obsessed with chess, no matter what your level is, you spend so much time on it that it becomes a part of your identity, which can be a good and a bad thing. You see it at higher levels, but people don't talk about it as much as at like my level. And I think a lot of people who just get really into chess very quickly, and separating it from your identity has been something that's very essential for me, even though I spent, I'd say, the large majority of my day on chess study.
That's really impressive work ethic. And the last topic, Jules, as I mentioned, I read your thesis.
Yes.
So it's called Positional Advantage, Factors Behind the Uneven Geographic Distribution of Top Chess Players. So obviously we know how you got back into chess, but what's the story behind how you landed on this thesis topic?
Yeah. I'm not going to paint myself in a good light here, saying again that I'm obsessive on chess. But I'm someone who's very single-minded when it comes to my passions, and I really thrive when I'm able to focus on something singularly. And I kind of came to the realization my last semester of college that, I mean, chess is kind of what I wanted to pursue for a little bit. And, you know, there was a certain sense of me struggling to balance other aspects of my life with chess and with what I felt for chess. And I think many people are much better at it than I am, but I find it very hard to split between two passions at one time. So a way I found to do that and to help and to not struggle academically was to kind of combine them and to be able to do my academic work. I also actually created a class. So I took my own class as a senior. I created a class with the help of just a great professor, and where I just studied chess basically for a class, for an extracurricular class.
Wow,
but
well
it still
played.
counted as a full credit. So I had a whole chess schedule. Yeah, well played, exactly. I have a whole chess schedule where I was like annotating games, going to tournaments. I had to write some essays as well on different topics in chess, but I got to spend a whole class studying chess. So
that's awesome.
That's what I also did with my thesis. So my parents.
Now you need to get a master's where you only study chess.
All chess.
Yeah,
but 50% of my classes in senior year were chess, which is definitely something.
Yeah. And so, again, I read the paper, but I don't want to step on it. What would you say the sort of main takeaways for listeners were from this topic of like what contributes to uneven geographic distribution of Grandmasters 2600 plus is the line you drew in the paper?
Yeah. So to answer that, first, why I drew that line of 2600 plus is I was looking for the arbitrary line where there is a huge uneven distribution. And while there is an uneven distribution in different countries between all grandmasters, 2600 plus, like if you look, I have a bar graph in my thesis, and a few countries really just hold everything there. So just the main takeaways were basically I managed to interview a bunch of grandmasters of all different levels on a bunch of different topics, and then it wasn't just, I did like quantitative interviews, so I had them like rank from 1 to 5, like the support they got from their federation, from the support they got from their family, from like the culture, how many kids play chess in your school. And I was looking to see, my main hypothesis was that this uneven distribution is either due to federation support or due to chess culture, more chess in schools, more people playing chess, general population of chess players. And I found that while it's very hard to make definitive results in this kind of study, it's a combination of both. I think that the surveys greatly indicated that federation support, whether it came from an individual donor or your government as a whole or your chess federation, was extremely important in getting above a certain rating range. And then also countries with a higher proportion of 2600 pluses tended to be the countries with a large chess playing FIDE rated population, which makes sense.
Yeah. And it was your paper was fairly statistically rigorous, as you say, a lot of data visuals.
Yes.
What was your major, or what was was this for a certain class? Like, what was the overarching topic that you had to shoehorn chess into?
Political science.
Oh, well done. Okay. I wasn't sure if it was stats or poli-sci based on, or like it could be, some sort of other cultural catch-all. Anyway, go ahead.
No, I was laughing because that was my exact thought process when I was trying to fit chess into a thesis. I was like, how the heck am I going to fit chess into political science? What am I going to do? Especially, like, I knew I wanted it to be very stats heavy, which, isn't unusual for poli-sci. Like, the amount of stats heavy it was unusual for poli-sci, but in general, stats is very normal in poli-sci, and international relations is also kind of a subsect of poli-sci, so they kind of let me fit mine into IR, which helped because IR is very, very stats heavy. And my Professor Peter Uven, amazing man, works heavily with stats as well. So that was helpful, but I actually had to learn coding from scratch.
Right, yeah, you mentioned David Brodsky taught you R.
Yes,
shout out to David.
Shout out to David. Oh my God, that man has infinite patience. I knew him through, where I know him through, maybe some tournament or a friend of a friend, and I knew that he was very good I knew him because he was helping me out with some intro Python class I took that I was very bad at, and he was just helping out, and I was like, can I pay you to teach me R? And the poor guy, he probably was like, this will be easy. It's like for a poli-sci thesis, I'll do it. And he ended up spending like an hour to 2 hours like teaching me R per week. And we had to do this incredibly complicated process, especially since FIDE data and USCF data and just data in general is not very easily accessible. So we ended up downloading, and for the stats nerds, I won't digress too much, but we ended up downloading this file from FIDE. And it basically was in like a notes app almost format with like random spacing that like had a player's name and then like the rating and then like their birth year or something in country, but it was all in random spacing. So we had to somehow find like a code that could like estimate the columns based on the spacing, because you can't manually import data from every single player in the world and the rating, which we need to do for different parts of this aspect for this project. So I gave him so many headaches trying to help me figure out all these problems, because not many people in academics have worked with chess data. So there wasn't a lot to draw from like academic sources or easy to draw from data.
Yeah. And I saw that you didn't get like as many respondents as you would hope. So even as you attempt to gather the data, you can, run into frustration. But yeah, I really enjoyed the paper, and yeah, I was impressed with the rigor of it. We
got like 40 grandmasters to respond, which honestly, since I wasn't paying them, I am happy.
Yeah.
But the rest of the data we just pulled.
Yeah, it is an impressive number. It's just to draw broad conclusions, as you know.
So tough, yeah.
Yeah. And we should say, for our listeners not familiar, David Brodsky is a grandmaster who's doing graduate work at UTD. I interviewed him many years ago when he was a teenager. I think he might be out of his teens now. I believe so. But I finally met him in person when I was down in Texas recently. So again, very gracious of David and all the other
Shout
people
out
who
to
have helped
David,
you along the way.
Dina Balankaya. I was really struggling with Grandmaster surveys because it's a 10-minute survey and people don't like to do stuff. So
Right.
Dina single-handedly got me like half of the Grandmasters to respond. She really pulled like every single contact she had and gave me their contacts and just made it very easy for me to do that. And also huge shout out to all the Grandmasters who took their time to take this random collegiate like students survey.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you for all of that. And we did hit like the bare minimum to make some sort of statistical inference. I was very worried for a bit that we wouldn't hit that. And then that would be very difficult for my thesis. So
Right.
yay.
But academics on the back burner, full steam ahead with chess for the foreseeable future, Jules?
Yes, I mean, it's really difficult to make a living with chess in general. I'm very blessed to be making enough money to sustain myself right now with chess. We'll see how much longer that lasts. Hopefully it will get a little better on that end. I know I'm not the only person in chess who struggles with that.
Yeah.
But generally, like, I mean, my passion is chess. I've never really felt passion for something like I felt for chess and chess study. I love chess content. But the reason I love chess content is partially a byproduct of just loving chess. So I get to do what I'm passionate about and I'm surviving. So I'm happy with it.
Awesome. Love to see it. All right. Well, Jules, we'll link to your stuff, Instagram, where you're blowing up the most. But YouTube, Twitch, X, anywhere, TikTok, possibly, anywhere else.
Sounds no, that is around it. My FIDE profile. No, I'm just kidding. Don't link to that. Yeah. So we'll see where that goes. Hopefully I'll be able to document the whole journey I've gained. Well, I didn't even have a FIDE rating before a year ago. So I'm hoping that, I know it's harder the better you get, but I'm hoping to be able to document it all, at least more in Twitch as well. And YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, you're 1800 FIDE too, right?
1829 now, I think, after last tournament.
That's amazing because, every guest that I talk to every week, all we do is whine about the deflation in FIDE. And here you are just rocketing up the ladder. So it's good to see.
I have a lot of resources in being able to like compete and stuff. I do think that there is something to be mentioned about like, where you live location-wise also helps. Tournaments, I spent part of the year in Spain. I do US FIDE tournaments, but actually, to not be one of those guests who complain, but I gained 125 USCF points in Chicago Open and 20 FIDE points. Same tournament. Think about that for a second.
Any tournament you gain FIDE points is a good tournament as far as I'm concerned.
So I had to outperform my rating by that much USCF just to gain 20 FIDE points. So I understand the struggle.
Yeah, the struggle is real. All right, well, Jules, congrats again on your success. Look forward to continued successes and good luck in your upcoming tournament in a month or later this month, right?
Yeah. And thank you so much for having me. And thank you for letting me gabber on about a bunch of different topics. It was a lot of fun.
My pleasure, Jules. Take care.